So deadline day for the winter transfer window in 2025 has just passed. It's been a really eventful January transfer window on the whole, I would say. I'd say it's probably been the best for at least 3 or 4 years now. And with that, there's been a lot of deals, a lot of drama, a lot of interesting storylines really when it comes to this. And I wanted to have a look at 4 clubs. I wanted to go through 4 different teams and say whether they were a winner or a loser during this transfer window. Now, I'm just going to focus on the Premier League list because, of course, I am English. I do love the Premier League, and we cover the Premier League a lot here on the Football Chronicle. And also, in truth as well, I feel like this transfer window has not been that eventful for a lot of clubs in Europe, with the possible exception, really, of Italy. Some big signings there. Still, when you look at the scale of things, of course, the Premier League reigns supreme, being the most financially successful football league in the world. It's not really a surprise that most of the deals were happening, but not all of the clubs had a good time. Some clubs had a great time. But let's get into it, guys. Let's have a look at some of the winners and losers of the winter 2025 transfer window. And we're going to start with a loser, and that loser is Arsenal. Now, you might be thinking, well, Arsenal, what business did they do during the January transfer window? None. Nothing. No ins, no outs, no loans, no nothing. And, you know, Arsenal right now are performing pretty well on the pitch. Of course, they did a really good job against Manchester City at the weekend, getting a 5-1 victory. Some might say they don't need to strengthen, and I understand that sentiment. But at the same time, a lot of Arsenal fans and a lot of onlookers when it comes to Arsenal have been saying the exact same thing that really, in truth, they've been saying for the last 3 or 4 years now, and that's they need a striker. They need a number 9. They need an out-and-out forward to score them 20-30 goals a season, because right now they don't have that. Now, of course, Arsenal fans may well point to the fact that there are a lot of goals despite this. They really showcased that on the other day against Manchester City, but I would argue to make that team even better, they need a number 9. I fully subscribe to that theory, really, when it comes to it. Now, who that number 9 was going to be is anybody's guess. I mean, they were linked with the likes of Alexander Isak during the window from Newcastle United, and to be fair, to have a bit of sympathy for them, I do understand why they didn't do business, because to sign a player that probably would have cost £100 million, for example, because Isak would have cost at least that. I feel like that would never have been done in January. I feel like they never would have been able to afford that. They were, of course, linked with some other players as well, but also for significant fees. We're talking north of £50 million quite comfortably. So I would say overall, Arsenal are probably a loser when it comes to this transfer window, because they've done nothing. They've not improved at all. And yes, Liverpool have done the exact same thing. They haven't improved either, but the difference is that Liverpool are top of the Premier League and they are doing extremely well. Arsenal are near the top of the Premier League and doing pretty well, but to take that step to win the league, they need to improve their squad. And I don't think anybody from Arsenal will really disagree with that sentiment. I think Mikel Arteta, if he was being totally honest, would probably agree with that, because I think it's clear he wants to sign a striker as well, but whether it's the funds, whether it's the board, whether it's something else, they just didn't do it this window. And because of that, I feel like that could be a deciding factor in them not winning the Premier League and potentially not getting a trophy again this season. I'm just putting it out there, because of course they're out of the FA Cup. They could well get through to the final of the EFL Cup. I have backed them to do that, of course, in my preview for the Carabao Cup semi-finals, second leg, so check that out if you're not already, of course. But let's move on to the winners, a team that did a lot of business during this window, Aston Villa. Oh man, Aston Villa did some incredible business during this window. It was looking like being a relatively quiet one for them, really, until John Duran was sold to Al Nassr in a deal that is worth around £65 million and could well get to £75-80 million by the time all of the bonuses and installments and everything like that are eventually triggered, because even though John Duran's a very talented player, losing him for that amount of money I don't think is bad business for Villa at all. Duran clearly wanted to be a main man, be a main striker starting every week, and with the likes of Ollie Watkins there, unfortunately for him, it's far from guaranteed. That competition is definitely there. Diego Carlos being offloaded to Fenerbahce for £9 million is also good business. And Jaden Philogene as well. I mean, a bit part player really for Aston Villa. One for the future, but £20 million going to Ipswich. I feel that's a good deal. I really do. But the thing is with Villa, it's more the ins, because Villa have really struggled when it comes to Champions League, kind of the hangover and everything. Of course, they did very well in the Champions League this season, got in 8th place, got through to the round of 16 automatically, something that Manchester City couldn't manage, of course. More on Man City very soon, of course, though. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say the Inns, though, they've very much added depth to the squad, which should help them with games in the Premier League after Champions League matches, because their record in games in the Premier League after Champions League game is, you know, it's nothing short of abysmal. They've really, really struggled. I think they've only got one win in the 8 games that have followed Champions League matches. So that really does point to a lack of depth, a lack of freshness. Axel Disasi coming on loan from Chelsea, that's a good signing for them. Marco Asensio, that's a real coup from PSG. Marcus Rashford as well, if they can get him firing, if they get him playing very well, I think he could be a great signing for them. He's come on loan from Manchester United. Andres Goff coming from Levante, £6 million, that's a bargain. Daniel Malin as well from Borussia Dortmund for £20 million. Again, relatively a bargain, I would say. So some really, really good signings, offloading players with the exception of Duran, that they're not really going to miss, to be honest with you, and more than replacing Duran with both Asensio and Rashford as well, and Malin as well, I believe is more of a forward player too, so really, really impressive for them to be able to do that. But let's go to another loser, and another loser, I did mention Manchester City, we'll get on to them, but let's talk about Manchester United. Now, Man United got rid of Marcus Rashford on loan, which I just mentioned, to Aston Villa. I feel that's positive for them. Also loaning out Anthony as well to Real Betis, that is positive, that's getting some more money in the club. Signing Patrick Dorgu for around 25-30 million pounds from Lecce, he's been a big target for them at left back. I think that's great for them. Aiden Heaven, you know, £1 million signing from Arsenal, relative bargain, one for the future, not someone you'd expect to play too much. But you got to look at Man United's squad, really, and they've effectively got rid of 2 forward, 2 wingers, or a winger and a forward, really, in Rashford and Anthony, and they've not replaced them. Now, I know, of course, Anthony and Rashford were not doing very well, but they're still players. They were still playing every now and again, or at least in Anthony's case anyway. Rashford very much seemed like he was frozen out of the squad. But, you know, Dorgu coming in, that's great, because that means, you know, that Shaw doesn't have to rush back for them to have a really good out-and-out left back, and I think he'll be a good player for them. But honestly, when you look at it, this is not going to change Man United's fortunes. I would not say that they are a markedly better squad now with Dorgu in there and having lost Anthony and Rashford. I mean, you know, a tiny little bit better perhaps, but, you know, and again, you know, the finances, like with Arsenal, the finances probably weren't there in terms of what they're able to spend because of PSR, but you can't deny that it's disappointing. You would have hoped for a lot more from Man United. They were linked with a lot of players during this window. Tell not coming in, I think, was a big disappointment for them. He looked like he was really wanting to sign, but it was just not going to happen because the finances weren't there. So disappointing from Man United for sure. I would definitely classify them as a loser. You cannot say they're a real winner during this transfer window, because of this, they'll still have to offload Anthony and Rashford at some point permanently as well. They've only gone on loan, so they're just kicking the can down the road with that. But speaking of down the road from United, there is City, Manchester City, and I feel like they've done really, really good business during this window. In terms of the players that have gone out, a bunch of players have gone out, 4 in total, but the only first team player that's gone out on loan is Kyle Walker. Now, Walker, of course, for me, I love Kyle Walker. I'm biased. I'm a Sheffield United fan, so he came through our academy. I got a bit of an affinity for the guy. I feel like he's going to do really well, though, for AC Milan over on loan in there. I mean, it was pretty clear that I think Pep actually quite liked Walker, but the board and the people around the club were saying, nah, this ain't it, Chief. He's kind of past his best, and unfortunately, he's not really been performing for Man City this season, so I feel like it's good they've got rid of him. And the players they've brought in 5 players. I mean, people said that Man City could spend around £200 million during this transfer window and be fine in terms of PSR because they barely did anything this summer. And so it proved they spent around £200 million. They spent £50 million on Nico Gonzalez, a defensive midfielder from FC Porto. He came in on transfer deadline day. Vitor Reis as well from Palmeiras. He's a bit of one for the future. £30 million coming from Brazil, but that centre back is going to be someone who is going to be a part of that squad for years to come. Same with Kusanov as well, coming in from Lyon, £35 million, a relative bargain really for someone of his talents, someone who is very highly rated for the future too. Up top, they've also got Omar Marmoush as well from Eintracht Frankfurt, £64 million for him. Fantastic signing, really. Fantastic signings all around. And Juma Bar as well has come in from Real Valladolid. Apparently, he belonged to like, or is on loan somewhere in like Sierra Leone or Liberia or something like that. Never heard of the guy. One for the future. So Man City really doing well during this transfer window, in my opinion. And the rebuild, the revamp of the side, even though on the pitch right now it's not quite working out, as these new signings, Mamouche, Kusanov and Reish, and Gonzalez as well, eventually when he comes into the side after just signing, when they come into the side, they will very much, I think they will really improve Man City. And I think they're eschewing for top four, which, if you asked me a few weeks ago, that I would not have been so certain that they would be able to get top four, but I think they'll be fine, which of course will be a disappointment, having won 4 Premier Leagues on the row, in a row, to, come and unfortunately not be able to really defend their title. But considering how bad they were not too long ago, they had relegation form, simple as that. But now I think they'll be all right. I think they'll do okay in the end for Man City. But yeah, there we go, guys. Those are some of the winners and losers. Some with Manchester City and Aston Villa as both winners, and Manchester United and Arsenal as losers. Am I being harsh with the losers? Am I being too generous with the winners? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, as always. And we'll see you very soon for some more content just like this on thefootballchronicle.com. Like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell as well. And we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a great day. Have a great evening.